Hi, everybody. This is Debbie with Living Purified, and I'm talking about is purity outdated? Why this Gen Z daughter is actually questioning everything. I saw this come up on Instagram, and I want to dive into this, and I actually want to talk about this because I feel like it's really relevant. And I'm actually glad that this mother and daughter posted this because it is something to talk about. And even when I was growing up with my mom, we would have discussions about different things. Let's just jump right into it.
Message. Good morning, beautiful.
No,
How are you?
like,
Have a good night. Text me all those.
If he didn't get because he's lying.
And he want to touch that,
which he never did. So
I will say this one thing. I like I said, I enjoy the fact that one, they were willing to share this. They jump right into the idea of sending a good morning text, and she's telling her like, don't just get caught up in that. And I really do one, I understand that to be true. And so the conversation keeps going. Let's keep watching it.
You didn't let none of that.
That was never on the table, so that's why it's like I'm
no squeezes.
No. We first of all, we the only time we saw each other was at church.
So it's interesting. She says no squeezes. Obviously, she's talking about her boobs. The thing is, I've even learned, and even in my journey, that a lot of times you ask yourself, how far can you go? Like, what can you do that's not crossing the line? And really, that's not the right mindset to have when it comes to this, because, and I think, she understands that sometimes teens and just men and women are going to do things, and maybe they don't do the thing. They don't actually have sex with each other, but they will do other things. And so she's kind of like, all right, you're saying you didn't do anything. And so she's like, no, we just met at church. And so it's interesting that she's being honest, because she could lie, and she's not lying to her mom.
Okay. Now I'm talking about college.
Who have I talked to in college?
That's what I want to know.
Nobody. That's what we're talking. That's the dilemma.
Y'all think she's telling me the truth?
This is interesting, thinking about, I don't know how old this young lady is. I'm assuming she's in her teens. She said college. So I don't know if she's a freshman in college or a high school junior or senior, but clearly she's about to. I know for me, when I was going through that phase, I grew up believing and knowing that you're supposed to honor your body. You're supposed to wait. And while that's an amazing thing to do, a lot of the times you didn't understand the consequences outside of don't get pregnant and this is just wrong and that's it, close your legs. There wasn't enough emphasis on the, not just even the consequences, but just talking about why you do it. And I feel like there wasn't enough people of faith to actually share. You just got condemned and you just got questioned, are you doing the things? And so I think for her, she's like, yeah, but what happens when you go away? And now you're not in my household. And that is typically when things happen. And, you start exploring yourself and you start wondering what is really out there.
Why would I lie?
Save it for marriage, please.
I just feel.
Don't save it for carrots.
Carrots? But also, okay, I don't know if I should say this. You wouldn't buy a dress without trying it on first, would you?
You mean you want a boy to test drive your TT before you get married?
No.
This is so funny because now you understand the thinking that she has, right? And if I had to guess, she's probably had talks with other girlfriends, or maybe she's strolling, or she's just thinking like, what harm could it be to sleep with somebody? Like, I mean, could it really be that bad? If I did it one time or even a couple, is it really that bad? And I think that's where curiosity comes in. And I don't know if she's done anything. I'm not going to accuse this young lady of anything, but I think what I like is the fact that, she's even admitting that, is it that bad? Because one thing as believers is we think that God doesn't want us to question his, like, don't question God. Whatever God says, that's it. A lot of people in the Bible question God. They wondered, what does this mean? Think about Moses when God came to him, and he's doubtful. He's like, me? I was a murderer. I am not qualified to lead your people out of Egypt. I am not, you're questioning God. And obviously, this is her parents, so this is like her authority, at least on earth. And she's probably even navigating her own personal relationship with Christ, where she's wondering, like, is it really that bad, God? Like, I've sinned before, but is this really? And I would say, she should definitely be around other teens and young adults that really understand what it means, or even just older women, like myself, like her. And I know, like, if she even gets curious enough, and I think this is where it gets interesting when you're young. And I know for me, I didn't have quite that same mindset of, well, what's so wrong if the person can, like, don't you want to kind of know? And the mom has such a reaction that one of the things that my mom did when I was growing up was she would say, come to me, come to me and tell me anything and all the things. And you really create a safe space that you can have these type of conversations with your youth. And I feel like I'm actually glad that she's this willing to share, that she's curious. She is curious. I would be in prayer though. As her mom, definitely praying over her, definitely. And then breaking down, I know this is an Instagram video, but breaking down to her why. I understand that you feel like this may not be such a big deal. And she's like, just wait until marriage, just waiting until marriage. And what the issue is with this whole purity and waiting and all of that, and not just for women, men too. We don't talk enough about the consequences, and not even just the concept. I'm not talking about getting pregnant and getting STD or whatever, but the emotional, the relational, the rejection, the feeling that there's so much that surrounds being intimate with someone. It 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 feels good in the moment, and Holy Spirit, it grieves the Holy Spirit because, like it says in the word, it's the only sin that you do against your body. All of the other sins is your outer body. This is the only one with your inner body. I would say to this teen, I've heard grown women say the same thing. Like, I'm not going to marry him unless I've seen his thing. I'm not, and a man too. I'm not about to put a ring on her finger and I'm going to do all this. And I don't know what she's going to be like. I don't know how we're going to be. And we do live in this culture now where, the enemy and then also media has made it normalized that we should. It's okay. What's the big deal? And she's going to have to navigate that. And I do pray that she gets to understand who she is, and don't lead with the physical. Get to know the guy. Because one of the things I wish I would have known was how, when you do get physical, and let's say you did do it, right? Because I did that. And when you decided, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, how it shifts the whole dynamic of your relationship. Because if you actually allow Holy Spirit to convict you, to really understand that I want to honor God through every part, and not just my body, but even my mind, that's important too. The other thing I would say is the type of music, the music that you're listening to and stuff like that can also impact you and influence you as well. I'm not saying that this young lady can't talk to guys and young boys and stuff like that. She's going to have her own journey. I just pray that her and her mom continue to talk like I was talking through my mom. And I feel like I I remember when I said enough is enough with one of my exes. I was like, I this pleasure is not worth the pain anymore. And you have to get to a point where I get that you would like to know what that feels like with that person, but you have to also trust that God will provide a person for you that can do the things that, because you don't know. I'm assuming she doesn't know. You don't know. You could be with someone that has done it, you could be with someone that's never done it. But you get to a point where I have cried, I have been at doctor's appointments, I have been by myself. I've been cheated on. I've been like, there has been so much pain and hurt attached to that decision. It is never just don't get pregnant, have some fun. It's always heavier than this. And the question is purity outdated? Is it old school? And she says, waiting until marriage isn't old school. It's wisdom, it's holy, and it's still beautiful. And one of the comments below actually says, changing God's rules for culture reasons. And it's true. It's true. And I feel like this isn't the only thing that someone can decide, you know what, I don't know if I want to do this. I think I want to. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. I'm going to keep going.
He says, no, it was part.
What if we get married and then it's horrible?
That is the trick of the enemy. That right there, I have heard that so many times, that if I get married, what if it's terrible? I would say this, now that I'm on the other side and I'm actually married now, and I actually waited multiple years, over 7 years, about almost 12 years total, and I had my on and off season. Let me tell you this. She doesn't know this because she's thinking, and she's probably even talking to people, or she may be influenced right now, and she may be thinking like, I don't want to like not enjoy myself. That is the enemy, and that thinking will have you in somebody's bed, will have you possibly at the doctor's office, will have you go through things that you do not need to go through in order to make sure that this is the right person. Let me tell you something. I wish I would have not prioritized how good someone can do things to me, and that was never a thing for me. But I feel like I could understand why she feels like, man, I don't want to end up in a marriage or a relationship and I'm not pleased and I'm not happy. And and that is a thing I've heard of women and men saying that they did wait, and intimately, it wasn't the greatest thing, but you have to work on it. Just like anything else, you have to work on your fitness. You have to work on your career. You have to work on parenting. You have to work on anything that you want in this life, even your relationship with God. It doesn't just happen. So whether you decide, okay, you know what, I don't care, I'm going to just do it, you will see where that goes. And the thing with sex is it clouds your judgment. That's the number one thing I would even tell my own child, or even my nephew. I have a nephew and he's a Gen Zer. And I would tell him, like, I understand you're going to have hormones. I understand you're going to be curious. I get that. And I understand that you should wait. The reason why I want you to wait is there's so much more attached to the physical act than you know. And you won't know until you ever do it. And I'm not saying the act itself is bad, because it's not. God created it. But one of the things I would say is it does not help you see the person clearer. So, okay, the sex was good. Now what? Oh, I'm physically attracted to you, and now you've shown me your people. You've seen my thing, I've seen or we done did some things. Now what? You don't see the person clearly. They don't see you clearly. I have had situations where a guy was like, I don't want to be with you unless I'm able to do something. And it really takes discipline to stick it out, because you will deal with a lot of rejection, even from people that believe. And that's something I wasn't quite ready for, but I had to thicken up that skin and trust that God was going to provide the right person for me and the right situation. And I feel like, she's thinking like, this is going to be terrible. That's the trick of the enemy. It's the same thing that the enemy did with Eve. Did God really say? It's these things that we continue to listen to, or even believe and wonder and want to explore for ourselves. And he knows that it's actually not. God can help you. And if it is truly the right person, you guys can work at it. You guys can go to classes. You guys can learn things together. The most important thing is that you marry the right person. It's not about burning. It's not about moving in quickly. But I understand. I have heard this multiple times before, especially when it comes to this conversation.
And what if didn't treat you like a porta potty? He come in and then he leave. He just take a dump and leave, and he gone.
Well, obviously there'll be a long level of commitment beforehand, maybe an engagement.
And that's the thing too. So she says, as a mom, she's like, yeah, well, he could just come in, come out, come in, come out. And that happens. We live in a culture now, that hookup culture, the situationships, casual sex, all of it. We live in that cult, all of it, as believers and non-believers, everybody. You've seen multiple people do this thing. They hook up, they live together. It's a whole nine. And, she's like, nah, I would, be together with this guy. So the thing with saying like, oh no, it's going to be like a long-term engagement thing before that would happen. By the time, I will say this, by the time you get to a long-term relationship or possibly even engagement, I would say to this young lady or any Gen Z, anybody, go to premarital. And I'm not saying premarital will guarantee that your marriage or your relationship will work, but if you have concerns or if you have curiosity, when you do find that person, I would say go and talk to someone. If you don't talk to your mother, it seems like she has a really good relationship with her mom, because clearly she's sitting there and she's talking to the mother and she's saying all the things to her. And I feel like go to her, or maybe even go. Actually, she should have some other people that she could talk to that will steer her in the right direction so that she can understand and ask the questions like, what was it like? And all, maybe you don't want to say it on the internet, but ask the questions, because clearly there's a curiosity there. She's thinking like, nah, I want to do it right away. Maybe once we're engaged. And that's another trick too. I already have the ring, or we're going to get married. So why not? Why not? I'm that much closer. We've already been together. Screw it. And that's also a trip up too. You have to be mindful of believing that, well, I'm close enough. I might as well. I might as well. I might as well. No.
I'm sorry,
Couple months
Jesus.
into said engagement.
I'm sorry, Jesus. She's changing your rules for cultural reasons. Thou shalt not is thou shalt not.
You're right.
Like you'll know.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you'll know. And you have to make sure that you don't move God out of the way, because God don't understand this part. He understands everything concerning you. He created relationship. He created all the things, and he knows the beauty of it. So when you allow God to lead and guide you and not be led by your hormones or what people are saying or the fear that it might, because it's really fear. What if we get married and it's not good? What if we get married and it's not right? I understand that. I get that. But at the same time, it doesn't, then how many test drives you going to test drive? All guys can give great words, great text message. Good morning, beautiful.
Okay. And so that's the end of the video. Now it's looping. And, I feel like I'm going to this young lady, because one thing she didn't do, she wasn't disrespectful, but she was willing to listen to her mom. She was willing to hear her mom out. Now she's going to have her own journey now, but she was like, all right, you know what? You are making sense. Like, I guess, God did create me. He knows how he wired me. He knows how I'm wired. He knows what I'm about. And he will help me through this. This is not going to be a thing where I have to do this by myself and I have to navigate all of the different things by myself. And I feel like that was a great way to, wrap up this mini talk, because clearly I'm sure that this isn't the first time they've had this conversation, it seems like. But I feel like this is so important that we talk about it, because it's a real thing. People are getting older. They're exploring. They want to see what's what. They're curious. They don't know. And I feel like that's so important. I'm going to jump to the comments here. This is so good. This is the kind of relationship God wants us to have with our children. Exactly. And that's what I was saying. Let me tell you something. That is powerful. That's a blessing to have your child. I remember when I was in high school, none of my girlfriends would they were like, I can't talk to my mom or my dad. Like, absolutely not. I cannot talk to my parents about anything. I will not talk to them. They cannot handle it. They don't talk to me about anything. And the more and more I talk to adults, they say, yeah, I never talk to my parents. Like, never. We've never had the conversation. We've never talked about things in general. And that's why it's so important. And it says, plus she's safe with you. So she's definitely telling you the truth. You could tell that this is a genuine relationship. And I pray that whether you're a parent, you're an aunt, you're a mentor, if you truly are walking this journey out, talk to the youth, talk to someone else, but also surround yourself in community. Someone says, how many test drives are you going to test drive? Great conversation for the young men as well. It's true. So then if you say, okay, well, I got to make sure you're good. But then what happens when that don't work out? Then the rule resets every person that you meet. Like, all right, well, because let me tell you something that they don't tell you is every person you sleep with, you have some memory up here about what they did to you, about what you did to them, about there are things that happen in the bedroom or wherever you end up doing these intimate acts with these people or person. And that makes that is something that you will have to overcome when you get married. Like, you have to now train your mind and your memory to delete that, to let go of that. Because another thing that happens sometimes is you end up comparing. My wife, my old girlfriend used to do this to me, and you don't know how to do. How would you feel? How would you feel? And that's the thing too. Or even, it could be flipped. So how many times are you going to say, I got to get that? I got to get that. Trust me. No. Somebody said, my hubby and I waited. Words cannot describe how amazing and beautiful the process was as we figured it out together, 27 years, and we still have a new moment. This one's a bit longer. Said the thought of two people exploring each other's body is like no one else. So beautiful. And I believe it does wonders, and we do wonders for communication between the two in marriage. Being vulnerable in that space, it opens you up to a multitude of things and who you can be to each other. So waiting is far more worth it. I wish it was explained to me in that way, because I would have waited for the experience, for the communication, the intimacy. Let me tell you another thing I just thought about when I read that. The other thing that it gives you a peace of mind when you're sleeping with a boyfriend or whatever, or even a girl, when you sleeping with somebody that you're not married to, there's a level of, you have no idea if this thing's even going to work out. One day you could be together, one day you may not be together. One day it's this, you don't get that peace of mind of what this is and who this is, and the security of knowing that this person's not going to just up and leave me. And this person wants more than just what I can do for them. And when I tested a guy and said, this is what I demand, and this is me honoring my body, I really got to see who actually wanted to honor me. And a lot of them didn't. And that also helped with the process. Other comments said, this conversation is so real. In my future with my munch, I'm ready to get rid. Okay. My daughter's 20 and still pure. I'm not mad at it at all. Open and honest as it should be. And then ET says, Jada's on the chopping block next. Erica, pray that she lets me record it and post it on Insta. I think, as a father and a daughter, that would be really interesting. I didn't, my own experience, I didn't get that. My parent basically just said, stay away from them, which that really wasn't helpful. I do feel like there are parents that really don't know how to talk to their teens. They may want to, but they just don't have the language to. So I will say, it didn't help. But I would say, as a man, don't be afraid to talk to your youth. Don't be afraid to sit your daughter down and tell her, like, hey, this is what I did, and this is what you could end up getting into. And so, and then she says, thou shalt not means thou shalt not. It's true. We tend to want to bend it to our will. And that's our flesh. Like, everybody does it. I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of wanting to bend things sometimes. And, test drive your little TT. And so, this video really did touch a lot of people. And I saw it and I said, I really wanted to dive into it because it is important. It is very important. And I feel like this is very on time. And I feel like people really need to understand that we have to have conversations like this. And it's not a one-time thing. It's an ongoing thing. So even if, let's say, for some reason she decided to, right? She did it, right? I would pray that she would have a community of girlfriends, her mom, aunties, whoever, that would talk to her and say, I understand that you did this or you are doing this. And really understand where her head's at with it. Because I remember when I was with my boyfriend and my ex-boyfriend, and I was in my 20s, and I was like, and I joined a small group, and I remember the lady, my group, my life group leader, she basically criticized the crap out of me. She's like, you don't need to be doing that. It was terrible. And I remember that feeling of, okay, I get that I'm not supposed to, but how do I stop? Because that's another thing too. If you decide to start, going in that direction. And if you do want to stop, let's say you're not ready to, because sometimes you're not ready, you just want to be in it. But let's say you did, you also have to show compassion. You need people in your life that's going to say, okay, these are some of the things you can do. Maybe don't go over his house. And also get to the point where you will stop completely. Let's see what would happen if you did take it off the plate. Like if you got that strong of a conviction to say, enough is enough, I do need to stop. And you're gonna, and just because you say that, you're gonna go through your own motions. Because the other thing people don't talk about is they always talk about the act of being intimate and having sex. But what about if she, I'm not saying she's doing this, so a disclaimer, I'm not saying that, but there could be self-pleasure going on in the meanwhile. And I know there are some people that's how they get through is, well, I know how to pleasure myself. I know how to, so you have to get to the point where you trust God and you let go of all of those feelings. But I really feel like this was a great video to dive into, because these are real conversations that parents should be having, and not enough parents and siblings and communities are talking about this. And not just with women, but even boys, young men, and even grown men that do decide to honor God and they've never done it before, but they know they want to. This is very important to do. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Live and Purified. My name is Debbie, and I will talk to you next time. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this video, and where do you lie? Is it old school? Is it outdated? Honestly, as believers, God's word stands true, but it's not weird that she questions it, but it is very interesting, the mindset and the things she did say. And so I would love to hear what you have to say in the comments below. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.